The great thing about stranger danger is a very simple message. It's very powerful and very effective, and people know it and are aware of it. But what do you think's so wrong with it?
Well, it might be simple, but I would certainly contest the idea that it's effective. Of course, the big problem is that most strangers are not going to harm children, so, you know, you're warning children against people who are potentially a source of help. Conversely, we know from the statistics that half of the people that will look to abduct children are actually known to them and are familiar faces in the community.
That's a frightening message as well, though, isn't it? To actually, can you imagine standing up in front of a classroom of children and saying, well, on the one hand, you might be scared of strangers, you've got a lot more reason to be scared of your own family.
And again, I think one thing we're really trying to do with the whole Clever Never Goes campaign is take the fear down a notch. Look at those old 1970s, 1980s public information films. They are terrifying.
I remember living in fear of, because that story was all about a guy. And then I think either in the film or a teacher said, and he's going to offer to show you, as you say, kittens or puppies.
Yeah. I mean, it happened to me, and because of that, that actually safeguarded me. Obviously, I understand you're saying we don't want children to be living in fear, but the reality is we're at a 15-year high of abductions. We have, you know, children need boundaries, and it's also about emotional maturity. When I first broached this subject with my children, who were 6 and 8, they said, well, aren't all adults, you know, good? Well, no, they're not. And thank goodness for Roald Dahl and David Walliams, who present these children in storybooks that teach us and teach our children that, no, not all adults are good. But actually, we do need to be quite firm with those boundaries. I don't want to take a risk that my child's going to be abducted.
Your campaign is this different phrase, clever never goes. Yeah. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, I would say that actually what we're doing, bearing in mind that stranger danger is ineffective, and actually one of the things that your pre-film there showed was the 7 out of 10 children going with a stranger in a playground, and I think that's exactly the point. It's one of the things that the children mentioned in the clip as well, that, you know, what exactly is a stranger?
So the idea of stranger danger isn't necessarily working, Vicky, and actually
but
maybe...
It worked for all of us. You said that it worked for you.
In the 70s and 80s...
this is now. This is now. So this is a much more contemporary position.
But what is taught in classrooms now?
Can I just say as well, I mean, it simply didn't work for everybody, unfortunately. You know, when you look through the cases, when you look through the crime statistics, you know, it simply hasn't worked for everybody.
So arming your kids with the ability to make that choice themselves, and by teaching them to understand that, you know, you have to evaluate the situation rather than just saying everybody's scary and everybody's
I'm not saying that you should say everybody's scary, but they do. It's quite hard to really understand. It depends on the child as well. And I would rather... I don't want to have that risk. It's going to ruin my life if something happens to my child. I'd rather they're very cautious, they're resilient, that it's my job, it's a parental responsibility. Yes, bring it into school. You can't have enough education, but also make sure that they're not naive either. I mean, you know, my 6-year-old can look at those children in the study. Yeah. Can they tell? Why are they so open and they're willing to go off with strangers? I mean, we do need to drum that message home in the same way with car safety, with road safety. You know, you can't just...
Also, Geoff, you said that the stranger danger message doesn't always work. I mean, it is not children's responsibility to keep themselves safe.
Exactly.
These are vile adults who are responsible for these crimes, you know, and I think we've got to be careful about constantly telling children, don't you go with X and Y. You know, the point is that, you know, the criminals, the abductors...
nobody's going to disagree with you on that front. However, there is a responsibility on parents and teachers to give children the skill set and the confidence and the aptitude to be able to look after themselves. You know, ultimately, we are going to have to give them independence. You know, my oldest is 9 years old. I think probably next year he will start that trip to school on his own, which is a moment that all parents face and agonise over. Well, it's my responsibility as a parent to actually give him the tools to make that journey safe.
But fear can also be positive. It can protect. It can... I'm not saying we should terrify. There's a balance there, isn't there? But they do need to know that, unfortunately, you know, there's, like you said, there's vile individuals. As adults, we're conned by people. We're every day... You know, I felt unsafe in a taxi the other day with something inappropriate. So I'm sorry for me to think that children are vulnerable, and actually we're giving a lot of responsibility to children. We're asking them to be autonomous with their safety in the same way that, you know, people shouldn't be doing these things. We don't live in an ideal society, but let's really feel that we're informing our kids, protecting our kids and being proactive in that role.
And that is exactly what we're trying to do. You know, I don't... You know, this is a new message. Stranger danger has been around since 1971. it is going to take a while for us to get used to a new message. But this isn't a... It's not a softening, you know. It's not a kind of
let's not naturalise it though and make it seem because then we go.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. We do
you.
appreciate you both coming in and sharing your thoughts. Though, thanks so much.